Hello everyone, this is Michael. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening on September the 12th, and I'm here for another update on the Hurricane Florence situation. As you can see, Florence is starting to get much closer to the Carolinas now, and right now it's a Category 3. It has weakened back to Category 3 status, but it's still a major hurricane with winds of 120 miles per hour. And as you can see, it is getting closer to the Carolinas. Um, so I think we're going to start off by talking about the Hurricane Center track and what they're thinking with this. They're looking at all the models and coming up with what they think is the most likely scenario, okay? As you can see, they got it here nearing the southeast North Carolina coast. Maybe really late Thursday night, early morning Friday. It's right there, right off the coast. The center is right off the coast, and then it meanders and slows down. You can see here's 2 p.m. Friday. It didn't move very much. It did not move very much at all. It meanders. And then they say, okay, then it's going to kind of make like a west and southwest motion from there, and it's still hurricane status as it goes inland through the Myrtle Beach area, then makes a hook to the west, where it then moves through over inland South Carolina, and it's still maybe it's still a tropical storm over Columbia area, and then it will weaken to a depression also not long after that. So that's what we're looking at, but remember, it can go anywhere in this cone of uncertainty, okay? So we really can't say for certain what the exact path is going to be. This is just like the most likely scenario, okay? Now, of course, this new track does increase the impact for the Columbia, South Carolina area, so I'm going to talk more about that in this video a little bit later, but let's talk a little bit more about what the paths are doing in the models. Okay, so here's the new Euro run that we were looking at this afternoon. It comes up to southeast North Carolina. There it is. Right there. Okay. And then it meanders and then moves down very slowly to the South Carolina coast or inland. This one actually kind of has it hugging the coast, and then it goes inland. Okay, so that is, let me see if I can zoom in. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm trying to let you see what's going on with that. So it kind of goes on the coast of South Carolina and then hooks inland, okay? So that's the Euro run. Let's take a look at GFS. The GFS. It looks similar. Comes up right there to southeast North Carolina, meanders down, and that one's more inland. It doesn't really go down the coast, it just kind of hooks inland into South Carolina in a west and southwest motion before it then curves back to the northwest, right? But that's still going over inland South Carolina. Let's take a look at the CMC just to see what it says. It's becoming more in line with the other models now. It's got, it comes down to southeast North Carolina, meanders around. Okay. What about the HWRF? I think the new run was running. I'm not sure if it's done yet. Yeah, the new run is still going, but here it is in southeast North Carolina. We can look at the last HWRF and see what it did. It kind of went to southeast North Carolina and then hooked inland and went through South Carolina. That's the HWRF. Let's take a look at the Euro ensembles. I really love looking at the Euro ensembles. I mean, I think it's the best tool to use for the weather. I mean, tropical systems are kind of wild cards. They're hard for the models, and sometimes, a certain model ends up being way more correct sometimes with these tropical systems. But I, in general, think the Euro ensembles is really good to look at. Let's take a look here. It's kind of blurry, ain't it? Okay, wait, there it is. I'm trying to make sure this is okay. The Euro ensembles look like, most of them are going into southeast North Carolina and then coming down to the west or southwest. Some of them going down the coast and then inland. Some of them just kind of go inland. But most of them are going into South Carolina in some fashion. That's important. That's important to note. That's very important to note. So I think that kind of path is, pretty possible and it's looking likely. So that's what we're looking at with that situation. I mean, there's still room for this to change, of course, but this is what we're looking at. So I think, the stall in southeast North Carolina and then the slow movement either down South Carolina coast or just right inland over South Carolina. It might go down the coast a little bit before going inland, or it just might ride inland. Something like that looks like what we're looking at with the path here. And this kind of path is very odd and very unusual for tropical cyclones. To make a southwest movement like that in the Carolinas region is very odd, but what we're looking at is what's going to cause this is a collapse in steering currents when it gets up here. The steering currents kind of collapse and it stalls out. It doesn't really get pulled in a certain way a whole bunch, so it's going to meander. And then we think another high building up to the northwest is going to cause it to kind of meander to the west or southwest in some fashion. And of course you have the big high in the Atlantic that's causing it to go to the coast, and then you got a building high out here that's going to cause it to meander in a west-southwest motion. It's very strange. It's a very unusual path. It's very odd for a southwest movement, and I was talking about how it's possible for a North Carolina landfall first and then a South Carolina landfall second. That's possible. And I was trying to look through the records, and I couldn't find anything that had a situation like that in the verified, recorded tropical weather history. I don't think that's ever happened. I couldn't find any record of that. That would be like a really, really unique thing. And even the Southwest movement alone is very rare. I was trying my best to find other examples of that. I could only find there was a hurricane in 1901. That hit the Outer Banks of North Carolina, then it moved southwest, and then it made another landfall near Wilmington as a tropical storm. And that was really like the best similar path I could see in the records. So that one made a landfall in the Outer Banks and came down, and then did another one in Wilmington. But that was still both of them in North Carolina though. But the Southwest movement and the general idea was kind of similar to this in ways, with the system going southwest and the Carolinas. It's very, very odd. Now, we want to talk about, so we talked about what we think for the path. Okay, now a lot can change with this. And I do want to say, it could make landfall as Category 3 hurricane still. It is possible it could strengthen back a little bit, or it might stay about the same, or it could weaken a little bit more. So that's kind of up in the air, the exact intensity it's going to make landfall. But like I said, it's possible it's still a hurricane over Myrtle Beach area, and maybe even it's the PD region, but it may still be a hurricane right there. And it depends a lot on how much the center is able to stay offshore. You do not want to see this stay offshore a little bit more and meander, then come up to South Carolina, because then it could be a little bit stronger. If it stays more inland, it's going to weaken faster, right? So that's also going to play an important role in what happens here. But you're talking about maybe a hurricane in eastern South Carolina, and then maybe tropical storm over the Columbia, South Carolina area. So that's pretty crazy. We need to talk about the potential impact now. And this is going to be kind of based on the Euro here, what I'm going to talk about now. But of course, if this kind of path verifies, there's more impact for inland South Carolina. So let's take a look at Columbia, South Carolina on the Euro precipitation. Okay, it's got like a foot of rain for Columbia, South Carolina. A foot of rain or so, maybe 12 to 14 inches, something like that in this little area. That is a lot of rain. That is really bad. You're gonna get, you know, I have seen like the 5 Points area in Colombia, you know, the flood prone areas in Colombia flood and just like a heavy thunderstorm. I mean, they can flood very fast down there, and you're talking about a foot of rain. That is just really bad if that verifies. Now, this rain shield could shift depending on where the path is and other particulars, but we're looking at what's possible here, right? I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we're looking at the likely scenarios right now. So, you know, okay, maybe a foot of rain in Columbia, South Carolina, and many areas getting over a foot in eastern South Carolina, and then here in the southeast North Carolina, you could even get some 20 plus inches totals. Maybe even way more than that. I mean, there were some models printing out like even more than that. So, very bad news there with that situation. And of course, with this kind of inland path, you're going to get tropical storm winds well inland, right? So you could have like hurricane winds right down the coast, maybe even into the PD region. You could have sustained hurricane winds. Okay? And then it moves over into central South Carolina. And this is based on the Euro, but I looked at the maximum wind gust. And this has gone up based on the new track. But if you might not be able to see it on here, but I'll tell you the maximum wind gust around the Columbia, South Carolina area is around 75 to 80 miles per hour. So that's definitely not good. So the peak wind gust now on there is like 75 to 80 miles per hour. Oh, my bad. This is the knots. I forgot this was the knots. Let me do a quick conversion. It's always important to read the legends, right? Something that, you know, I learned in my geography classes all the time. Read the legend. Knots to miles per hour. So when you take a quick look at what we're talking about, okay, wow, that's more than I expected. Okay, so that was the knots. Maximum gust, knots. And I just did knots to miles per hour. It says it's like 92 miles per hour. So the Euro peak gust was about 90 miles per hour in Columbia, South Carolina area. So that's wow. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here with this sort of thing. With this path and what's expected to happen, that is very well possible. I mean, that's like low-end hurricane force. That's very possible. Because remember, I said it could still be a hurricane in PD region. And then it's coming westward. And I mean, the hurricane force winds will extend to a certain point, you know. I mean, I don't think we'll see sustained hurricane winds in Columbia, but definitely gust. Very possible as we're looking at with the Euro, saying, okay, we might actually have some hurricane gust winds, and you know, hurricane gust. Now we'll definitely most likely have sustained tropical storm winds, which is 39 to 73 miles per hour, and now we're talking about maybe getting gusts above that range. I mean, I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen, but this is what we're looking at as possibility here. So everybody should really think about that and take that seriously. So if we look at another graphic here, this is the percent chance of tropical storm winds, 39 to 73 miles per hour. The Columbia, South Carolina area is now in the 70% chance. So it's becoming like really likely now that we'll have the tropical storm winds. Okay, and you can look at the percent chance of hurricane force winds. Percent chance of hurricane sustained winds, you're looking at, you know, there's a 10% chance. A 10% chance in Columbia, South Carolina. So, I mean, that's not very likely, but it is an outside possibility. It just depends on a lot of things, but the idea is, you know, that could be possible in worst case scenario. But like I said, I'm thinking what's probably going to be happening is tropical storm, sustained winds, and maybe even as high as hurricane force, gust Okay, that's going to cause a lot of issues, and of course, the rainfall is as well. That's a lot of issues, folks. That is not looking good for us. Lots of power outages. Another problem with this is it's a long duration event. I talked about how it stalled and slowed down a lot. Okay, well, 2 p.m. Saturday, it's a hurricane in the PD region. It takes a whole day to get to Columbia or just a little past Columbia. So this is a multi-day event. And another graphic I'll show you. The estimated arrival of the tropical storm winds. I don't think they updated this. But basically, I think for Columbia, South Carolina, it could be as early as Thursday or Friday for tropical storm winds. Okay, it could be as early as Thursday. The tropical storm winds make it, at least gust, right? Then that's going to continue while the system is meandering around. So you're talking about a few days of tropical storm winds and heavy rain. And I think the rain might come in Friday at the earliest, and then it's going to last through the weekend and last into early next week. So you're talking about a few days of tropical storm winds and heavy rain. Because most tropical cyclones will, make landfall, move through rather rapidly. But this is stalling out and staying in the region. That is really bad. So this makes the impact even worse. Because now you're talking about, I don't know, that's just... The thing to remember with that kind of situation is, emergency officials and those kinds of things will not be out there in tropical storm winds. So they have to wait until the elements subside before they get out there. So that makes the situation a whole lot more disastrous. Like if the power goes out, they ain't gonna go out there and fix it. No, that would be too dangerous to do that. And that is just So if you get the power outage, this increases the chance it will be for an extended period of time. So a very dangerous situation we are talking about here. We're gonna hope for the best, but everybody needs to be ready for this and be ready for impact, because it looks like a very high impact event for well inland and for a lot of areas here, even Columbia, South Carolina. So we need everybody to prepare, and we need everybody to stay calm. Stay calm, okay? But prepare, and we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this. Now, just be ready for it. Please be ready, because this is not good. Very, very bad situation here, y'all. This is gonna be like the storm of a lifetime for a lot of people in the Carolinas. This is something that is very rare, so it might not happen again in your lifetime, or if it does, maybe another time or two. But but that's unlikely. I mean, this is like a storm of a lifetime sort of thing. We're going to be experiencing a historical storm system in the Carolinas, and I'm sure we're going to remember this for a long time. So just everybody be careful and stay safe, okay? Do your best to be safe, and we're just going to hope for the best, okay? I'll try to do some more updates. A lot could still change with this, because I'm telling you now, like, even right before landfall, a lot could change. So I'm not saying any of this is definite for Columbia, South Carolina. I mean, the impact, we're pretty much going to get impact, but, the extent, like to what extent is not definite. Like, that could change based on what we see here. But we need to prepare for worst scenario. I mean, hurricane wind gusts like that would be very bad. But even tropical storm winds is enough to cause a lot of problems, especially sustained for such a long period. Not good. Alright folks, so I hope you stay safe and we will talk to you later. Have a good evening.